Just go for it because most people don't. Just do it.
Yeah. Okay
And
then.
that's all I can say. You get an opportunity that comes knocking on your door, just go for it.
And it sounds like the opportunity came because you went for other opportunities to learn, to continue
Yep.
to grow, to go into a salon in the city when that stylist said you need to leave. She wasn't saying get out of here. She was saying go
No.
somewhere big, expand yourself.
Yep.
So this just says a lot about, the compound effect of taking each opportunity, adding to your skill set,
Yes.
taking growth as it comes, and then continuing to adapt and evolve. I think that's very inspiring. Welcome to Brazen and Bold. I'm so excited today to welcome my guest, Carrie Barchanowicz. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Carrie is the owner of Shear Talent Salon based in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
And she's been in the industry for over 25 years. She actually started at her salon, Shear Talent, as an assistant, a shampoo girl, working her way up during beauty school. Now, started taking over the salon, began that process just in January of 2025 this year, and made that complete transition over the last few months. So, Carrie, welcome to the show. We're so excited to hear a little bit about you
for having me.
and what you're doing in Pennsylvania industry.
Well, okay. So it's been a ride, that's for sure. I started at Shear Talent when, like you said, when I was about 15 years old. I learned so much during that time under Bob Hoffman, who was the owner of, believe this year is 59 years the business has been there. So it's a really long time. So I've learned a lot from him. After beauty school, went off to the city, worked under, other hairdressers and studied and learned so much, managed salons. And then I got a call from Bob and his wife, Kim, and said, would you ever want to own a salon? And I was like, no, I hadn't seen them in 25 years.
Okay. Had you been living in a
So
different city this whole time?
I'm sorry.
Were you living in a different city this whole time?
It was just in the city of Pittsburgh because like we're more north, like suburbs and like Bethel Park area.
Okay.
So I kind of said to her, I'm like, I've never had anybody ask me that question before. I have no idea.
And this is out of nowhere, basically, 25 years after you had worked for them as a 15-year-old?
Yeah, exactly. So, I was kind of like, I don't know. So I came on at that time. Their struggle was the younger stylist, this whole new technology and social media and everything. So I came on as a consultant with him for, can't remember if it was a quite year or not, but tried to help him with some certain things. And then I realized like I had connected with the team. I felt like the team had connected with me. And at that point, I knew it was perfect to come on as co-owner like 3 years ago.
Okay.
So then he taught me all the, behind the scenes of what an owner does, payroll taxes, dealing with the accountants, like anything like that. Payroll, I'd never done payroll before. So there was a lot to learn. So that 3 years, I cannot tell you how much I've learned from him. I mean, it's been amazing. But at the same time, like you said, now that we're in a transition, of certain things like, putting my name on the phone bill and things like that, there's so much involved. Nobody realizes that. I mean, it's mind blowing.
So this is cool. I didn't realize you'd been so the transition as like co-owner, or just maybe I could even say you started as an apprentice during beauty school as a stylist apprentice. Then 3 years ago you began apprenticing as an owner, which
Yeah.
is really, really brilliant. So even then, after mentoring with him and following their protocol and seeing what they're doing day to day, it still has felt like a lot in the last several
Oh
months
my
as you
gosh,
started it.
absolutely. It's so much. And, like anyone knows in our industry, whether you own a salon or not, whether you're just behind the chair, there's so much more that goes into us doing what we love to do, right? And
Right.
a lot of it has to do with the social media and, on cloud, cloud-based software and you name it. It's a lot. It's a
There's
lot.
moving
So
pieces, especially to move it forward. How long did the former owners have the space? How long did they own it before you took over?
So this year, Sheer Talent has been in the same spot for 59 years. May
Wow.
1st. May 1st, yes. So, he started it in his 20s, and he actually owned a couple salons after that too. So, he really, trust me, when I came in, Heather, like being that I've worked in other salons for months, I stood around like, I don't know what to do because the team was so amazing. It was like a well-oiled machine. So I was so blessed to be able to come into something like that. I did no turmoil or anything. So
That's incredible. What made you decide you wanted to buy this salon? You had experience. Are you still working behind the chair at Shear
oh
Talent?
yeah, I'm still
Okay.
behind the chair. And to be honest, like that was a struggle too, because I walked away from a book, and I also worked under the previous salon owner, doing, helping him with his clientele as well as my own to start over.
Right.
And I didn't expect anyone to follow me. And I was truly blessed to see how many that did, but it wasn't 100%. So
Sure.
let's see, I'm 47 years old now. That was at 44. I had to rebuild my book.
Right. Start
And
over.
that's hard.
How far is your current location from your old salon space?
So that's a good question.
Yes.
It's about a half an hour drive.
Okay. So it's a distance enough that
So yeah, it's a distance. Yeah. So, doing that and being with the ownership and everything, like it's been a lot.
you're juggling. You're
It's
juggling
good stuff.
for sure. Listen, the day starts. Like, walk me through your typical day. Like, what kind of drink are you ordering? What kind of coffee are you getting to kickstart your day? What's your favorite drink? What's your go-to to get yourself going? Because it is a lot that you're juggling, and our
It's a
stories
lot.
are more than I thought. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a lot, but I'll tell you what, I'm a one coffee girl. I'm nothing fancy. So, but as soon as that coffee hits, I'm already answering, 100 emails. I'm on with my virtual assistant from Spark Global. You know what I mean? At 7:02, we're getting the ball rolling. I go into the shop at 9 o'clock, take clients, and then come home, and there's still emails to be answered, and it just never ends. The phone's
so for
attached to me
you,
all the time.
how big is the team that you lead right now?
We have, well, including myself, we have 17 stylists.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Do any of them split their chairs, or how many stations do you have?
I have 15 stations, so there's plenty of room. We have quite a few that are almost ready to retire, so they're work like a day or two. So we have plenty of room. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
really fun. Tell me, what are the biggest things that you learned from the former owners in leadership? And what are the biggest things that you've learned from your own experience in leadership as you've taken over in the last 3 years?
Um, that's a really good question. Um, I think I've learned to listen, um, to be fair, um, and just to lead them and support them. It's not, about you didn't do this right or you didn't do, and I'd heard that for so many years, and seen that in so many years. And that's not the way to do it. You need to support your team, and you need to back them up, and you need to give them what they need. And I believe that's when they stay, because they're heard. They want to be heard. We all want to be heard,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think that's probably, it. I think over the years, I kind of didn't realize that I was already putting in my brain what not to do.
Okay.
Right. So once I like kind of came to Sheer Talent, it was kind of like, okay, well, I know not to do that. I know not to do that,
You
but I'm
saw
going to do this.
work. So
Yeah.
you're someone, it sounds like, who learns a lot. Just you assimilate through your process and working. What were
Yes.
some of the biggest things you learned from the salons that you worked for in the city? Some of the other places that you were. What were your biggest takeaways in education? Or it does sound like you always applied yourself to growth and education. What
Hmm.
inspired that? Who have been some of your biggest mentors, and what were kind of the things that you learned in those processes?
Wow, I could write a list of hair. I mean, I've worked under and with so many hairdressers that are truly like some of my best friends at this point, and I feel like I've learned something new from all of them. I've known from the start, you never stop learning. Whether it's go across the country and take a one-on-one balayage class with, whoever, then that's what you do. You go to your classes, you show up for the meetings, you show up for the education. And I've always been open. But to be honest with you, I feel like I probably learned the most from the stylists that I've worked with.
I like that. Okay.
I have.
Wonderful. On your team right now, what does your education look like at Sheer Talent? What is your rotation or method in your team meetings and education? Like someone else who would be in leadership, what are you doing that you see that is working and moving the needle forward for your team?
Well, I believe that, and I'm just getting started on the meeting part of it, so to approach that in a different way. But with education, we're, a red kid and black level salon, so we get the top pick of all the education. So there's an automatic 3 educationals per year, and I figure out what the team needs at that time. For instance, I have a lot of younger staff that were struggling with consultations. So we
Okay.
did a class on consultations, So it really just depends on kind of where we are, maybe with trends, right? Because things coming up and stuff like that. But I am not a leader boss that likes to have a gazillion meetings. I prefer a little more one-on-one basis,
Okay.
because I never like that feeling of, we'll just say, let's throw out the rule, and then 2 people break the rule, and now everybody has to sit to listen to it again.
That makes sense.
I don't like that. Yeah.
When you acquired the salon, were they having regular education?
Yeah.
And so,
Oh,
so
yeah.
they've been having classes. You do classes once a month, or do you have like a?
I wouldn't say once a month. We're probably quarterly, and then if something else comes up, or we do like a virtual, or there's something coming up, or sometimes we just kick things off with each other, like, hey, look what I did, and come over to this this client, or I'll bring them over and say, look at this technique that I'm doing, and it just depends. So, but definitely quarterly. But I'd like to do more, but we're just kind of getting into all this.
I love this. And what you're talking about in your salon environment, it sounds very collaborative. It sounds
Mhm.
like something that really, I think a lot of people in a suite rental situation are missing out on, which is like the
Totally.
team-based support. And it can be such a catch-22 because so much of our industry right now is in a rental situation, especially on the
Mhm.
West Coast. That's way more prevalent, but it's
Yes.
increasing in popularity. And I think one of the big drawbacks, and it's not just because I own a commissioned salon, we're hybrid now,
Right.
but because I think there's so much about the power of saying, hey, anybody who doesn't see Carrie right now, this beautiful curly red hair that's on the screen with me. Like someone's like, I'm not great with reds. Can you tell me next time you formulate? I want to understand how you accomplish the vibrancy that you have and
Exactly.
that reflection and warmth. Being able to bounce ideas off of each other, or
Mhm.
I might be okay at something, but somebody else is really great at like their razor work. So I can pop over and observe. And I've noticed that happening a lot on my own team, which I love.
That's
The chance
exactly how we are
to
too.
collaborate. That
Mhm.
sounds beautiful. And so the
Yep.
education is more organic, day to day,
Oh,
bouncing
yes.
ideas off each other. Cool.
Mhm.
I love that. Now, when you started the transition for the salon, what were some of the things? Because 50 years is a long time for business to be established. I remember telling somebody when I bought my salon. So I worked for the same salon since I was 17. I started off as the concierge at the front, and then moved into
Yeah.
assistant, and then moved into
Yeah.
stylist, and then moved into education, and then moved into owning it. And it's a fun progression, right? I was at the
It
same place
is.
my whole career, but the person that I purchased the salon from is named Mac, and he's exquisite and lovely and wonderful. And he ran the salon very casually. He's a very, very good stylist, great at teaching. Anybody who got to work alongside him was blessed. And when he was ready to step down, he said, would you think about buying the salon? And I said, no, I'm not crazy. Well, I'm just crazy enough. But the same thing happened to me. And this was 4.5 years ago. And, as I began to take over, I realized, the salon was run more casually, and a lot of some of the metrics or things that maybe worked, for example, in the 90s
Mhm.
weren't working anymore. I remember telling somebody the last time he advertised, this is not hyperbole. The last time Mac had advertised was in the yellow pages. I mean,
Yes.
a phone book. For those of you who don't
Mhm.
know what that is, Google the
Yeah,
throwback.
right.
It's like so he had word of mouth, tons of referrals, and that worked for him. But anybody newer coming into the industry had to have their social media on point. We needed a
Mhm.
website. We did wind up getting a website as a salon, but it was, salons typically aren't early adapters. They use paper booking years beyond when digital booking
Yes.
was available. And this is kind of how our industry has been. We're hands-on, we're creatives, we're not necessarily technology forward as a general rule. And so, there was a lot of things when I purchased my salon that I needed to begin to change, processes that weren't in place yet, a lot of systems, a lot of regular meetings that weren't happening, one-on-ones, looking at their metrics,
Mm-hmm.
right? Tell
Yeah.
me, when you got into that position as owning your salon and looking into it, what were some of the biggest things that you saw needed to change? And how did you go about making those changes in a salon that had been established for 50 years?
Yeah. I really think I felt like I had always been a numbers person, Heather, but to see the numbers in a different way, like how you said, like looking at their, doing their one-on-ones and, looking at their numbers and seeing how they progress like per month and I found it fascinating, to
Okay.
be honest.
Yeah.
I just loved it.
A unique
Um,
combo for an artist. A lot of artists like numbers aren't as exciting.
numbers aren't, yeah, but for me, it's like I get excited.
Hey, numbers don't have feelings, facts don't have feelings, and numbers
Right.
don't lie. I love it.
Right.
It's just information, metrics driven. So was
Uh-huh.
your former owner doing a lot of metric tracking and one-on-ones with you guys to talk about it?
So the reason why I'm going to say no is because he had paper books when I arrived.
Okay. So 3 years ago, you did not
Yes.
have a booking software.
Right.
Okay, it is 2025.
Yes.
In 2022, you were like flipping through paper 3 months down the road to pencil.
No, I was like, no book. We're
Okay.
not doing a book.
But see, like, that's an example of like this
It is. You're right.
for 40 years. Why is
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, it's like I don't even think about it because it's just I'm like, that's just what I have to do.
but
Right.
why get a newfangled machine and
Yeah.
give Big Brother your information? Like, I mean, listen, and I'm not making fun of it, but like that is such a good point. So you had paper books.
So we paper books.
They
Now,
make it
mind you, I have stylists, and I don't know about yourself with your salon because it seems like been around almost the same amount of time,
around 40 years.
that have been working there for 40 plus years. So when I tell them you're now going to have you're going to be able to book on your phone, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
I have to what? And they are killing it.
Okay. Okay.
Every single one of them jumped on. They totally understand this cloud-based software. We do online booking now. We have an online store. We track color usage, and it's all technical. It's all
Okay.
technical,
You
and
brought
they
all
get
this
it.
forward.
Yeah.
You brought all this in. Okay, so you brought your salon very updated, and it sounds like you are a
Yes.
forward thinker. Had you owned a salon earlier, you probably would have been an early adapter to more of these technologies. What is your tell me about the booking software you use and the salon, like the color measuring software that you use?
Yeah. So we use Mevo,
Okay.
and I guess when Millennium took, or I think Mevo started, no, Millennium was going to go away. Mevo started when I came on. I
Okay.
had already been working with it for 2 years. So
Okay.
he had said to me, what do you think I should do? I said, oh, well, I know that. I can train the whole team. Like, that's what we're going to use. So we use that. Obviously, they have their online booking. I also use their credit card processing, which makes it much easy with the online booking. And then we use Vish for our
Okay.
color measurement. Yeah.
All right.
And it's integrated with Mevo. So it actually makes it even easier.
So you're able to track what your stylists are using, what they're wasting.
The wasting.
Find I mean, for environmental reasons alone, our industry is a high waste industry, and there's
Yes.
a lot of chemicals involved. So that's an incredible way to be more thoughtful of the environment. But let's even talk about if you are able to cut your color expenditure by 15, 20%. That salon software has more than paid for itself
Absolutely.
I mean, if you save 5% of your color usage annually, it's paid for
Absolutely.
itself. Have you found that using some of these technologies has created the momentum and change that you're needed in your team to be more efficient?
Yes, I think they're booking their own appointments. This way they're putting in all their, at first it was like, I write my formulas on my cards. And I'm like, well, you could still write it on your cards. But once you put it into the system, you don't have to go and change. You know how if you change a formula and you forget to go mark it on the card? Well, there's no more of that.
Never done that. Never done
Yeah,
that.
exactly, right?
I loved my color last time. You did exactly the same. And you're like, I didn't write it down.
Write it down. But now it's like, you don't even have to worry about it. It's in there.
Problem of the past. Okay, I love that
Mhm.
because with the salon software, Vish, it actually, we use it at our salon as well. It
Okay.
measures everything. And then it also charts how much waste you use
Waste.
or waste that you created. So then you're like, oh, next time I can mix less. Or if, hey, Carrie came in 3 weeks longer than her last appointment, I'm going to mix more. And then if you're
Hmm.
like, I just want it this much redder or this much more golden and copper, less, you can make those little adjustments. And what I love about it too, how many times have you filled in for someone who's out sick or on maternity leave or
Hmm.
something, and you're digging through their 3x5 cards, and this sounds
Yeah.
like 1990 called and wants their file cards back, but you're digging
Oh,
through and you're like, I can't find their card.
I can't find their card.
Now you have everything on the software, and there's just
Hmm.
something, I think it's just very organized and efficient. Efficient
I
AF
agree.
is one of our business taglines at Spark. So like efficiency is my love language,
It
right?
is.
What else have you done to become more efficient in your space? And it sounds like your team adjusted and adapted pretty well to the big changes you had to make.
I mean, I was blown away. I mean, when I had the Vish gentleman come in to train Justin, I mean, was kind of very nervous. I was very, very nervous about
Yeah.
how that was going to go over. And he said to me, he says, "Your team is amazing." He's like, "Everybody showed up on time. They actually like wanted to know what I wanted to say." He says, "Most salons, they don't even show up." I said, "Well, that makes me feel good." So that
Yeah, you guys
was
did.
a good compliment, you know?
It sounds like you've really gained their trust. Tell me, what is like, what do you think is the number one thing that helped your team buy into your leadership or that helped you gain their trust as you transitioned as an outsider coming back after all those years? Granted, it's been a 3-year process, but what do you think made the difference for you to get that kind of buy-in besides listening, like what you spoke on earlier?
Well, I mean, I think mine was, I had a slight advantage because 4 or 5 of the stylists that I used to assist and whatnot, and one that was the one that told me that I needed to go many, many years ago, are still working there.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of open arms and hugs when I came in, you know. So I think that kind of showed others like the trust factor kind of
Okay.
thing. Like,
You came in
um,
peace.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you made some really big changes, and that was a difficult transition for me in owning my salon, and it was a shock to me because
Hmm.
so many people. I found that there's a ton of resistance to the changes.
Yes.
Like people were like, "We don't want to be able
They
to
don't
book.
want change.
We
Right.
don't want to post on social media. We don't want to do any of that." And we had great, I would say, personal relationships, but it was really hard. I would say over the space of 1 to 2 years of ownership, about half the team left, and it was
Hmm.
respectful. Nobody left on like terrible terms, but it was a huge transition because I had to take things that were not in systems, that were not being run properly, that were frankly costing the business a lot of money, that were in the favor of the stylist, and I had
Hmm.
to start to put it into more of a business perspective, with respect for the humans behind it, because people matter more than business, but
Right.
you also have to run it like a business. So there was a very, very difficult transition for me. What were your biggest, hiccups or speed bumps on the way as you made this transition, or maybe even just your biggest surprises, the things that you were like, didn't see that coming?
Well, I had a couple of my younger stylists decide to go.
Okay.
They had felt that I wasn't doing enough, which I thought, you know, I, I guess I wasn't moving fast enough for them. It's
Okay.
the best, you know what I mean? I don't know, but some didn't leave on great terms. Um, One specifically, she did, and I'd have to say I do miss her. But
Yeah.
it's always a surprise when you have somebody walk out,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't know it's coming. You really never know it's coming.
And it's hard to not take it personal.
Of
Um,
course.
One thing that I've noticed too is I realized what it would have taken to keep the people who left my team, what it would have taken to keep them on the team would not have aligned with the business
Hmm.
needs or our vision.
Right.
And so, one thing that I've really tried to be committed to is clarity over comfort and agreement. So I'm
Hmm.
not looking for everybody to be on the same page or agree. I'm looking for everybody to understand what the objective is, what the mission is, what direction we're going. And I want to make it very, very clear so that you can identify if that's a direction you want to join or if you're
Hmm.
looking for something else. And if something else is going to be a better fit for you long term, I know that it will also be a better fit for the business long term. And it's not
Hmm.
personal. And I try to do the same in all relationships, professional or personal. Like, I want you to understand who I am. I want to understand who you are and allow us to make the most healthy and productive decisions based on that information. I'm not trying
Right.
to keep somebody contained. Imagine if someone's real dream in life is to do like platform artist hair or something incredibly avant-garde, and your salon is like a very kind of traditional, slow
Right.
pace or something. Like you're not going to be for that person, and it's not because you're wrong or they're wrong. And I think it's really important to just
Mhm.
realize if what someone needs is not what you offer, it's best to establish that quickly and help them on their way rather than trying to navigate and keep friction. You know what I mean? So,
I agree with you.
what would you say have been your biggest ahas or your biggest personal growth points or biggest lessons learned over the last few years in this preparation to become the owner of your salon?
Oh my. I mean, I just truly enjoy just seeing people grow. Like it makes me happy. It really does. And to see the growth and that I've seen in such a short period of time, like I'm just so excited to see what's in store for us in the future because we're only going up from here.
Okay, I freaking love that. And that speaks a lot about your natural capacity as a leader to want to empower your people and share
Hmm.
them on in growth. Like that's the kind of leader I'd want to work with. And so I can only imagine that's attracting and retaining the right people for you. What's next for you at Sheer Talent? Okay, so this is a brand new journey. What is next for you, or what are your big goals or any kind of upcoming projects or things that you really see as your future?
That's a really good question. And I have a tendency to think really, really big, really quick and get excited about certain things. And, I need to start like calming down and say, okay, let's do baby steps. Rome was not built in a day.
I would never encourage calming down, but go ahead.
I love
Visionaries
that.
aren't supposed to think small. That's not your job.
But no, I want to see us grow, potentially do maybe a renovation to just get us up to date, a little more efficient, if you
Okay.
will. Okay.
Okay. What process have you put in place to be more efficient?
Well, I've talked to a designer. We have the plan set up, but you know how the steps go with all the architects and the
We did a
contractors.
massive
Like we're
remodel.
not anywhere near, but
Yeah.
right now I'm just trying to do, I know that's like the little things, but just little things to just get us closer to that
I did the same
project.
thing. For about
Yeah.
a year, I began eliminating clutter, streamlining our product line. That was how we
Hmm.
became more efficient. We down we downsized from having like 15 different brands to just a
Right.
few, finding what was the best seller, just really trying to get more tracking in place. But I mean,
Hmm.
everybody has one favorite product from every different line. And
I
so it was
know.
like getting rid of their favorite child. And which of your favorite dogs do you want to get rid of? Like, let's surrender your
Wow.
favorite animal. I
You're
mean, so
right.
it was like prying, prying these things from their lifeless hands. They were so like clinging to it. But doing some of those steps were what I had to do. And then, it sounds like adding technology has been a huge, huge win for your team. And then,
Yes.
what things have you found to delegate or give to people on your team? And what systems have you put in place that have made you more efficient and successful?
Well, I can say that part for me is just beginning. And I wasn't able to really dive into that until I met you, Heather,
Okay.
and your Spark Pro Global. Because at that time, like I said, I think real big and I know what I need to do, but one person can't do it.
Agreed.
It's, what do they say? It's, what's the saying? I forget, but you need a lot of people to you just need a lot of people to run it. Am I right? Like it's just,
Sure.
there's so much. And I feel like once I was able to start delegating certain tasks, things started to open up for me where I'm like, oh, we need to do this. Now I can do this because I don't have to go and do this. Okay.
Yes. Just opening up a little bit of space for your creativity to move, add that next thing that you're planning on doing, and then open up a little more space. Okay. What
Well
advice
put.
would you have for someone who's in a solopreneur, entrepreneur, salon owner, doing all the things, wearing all the hats, juggling everything? What would be your advice to someone who really has never delegated or treated their business like a CEO would? to begin, like what's the first step you would suggest someone take to begin delegating or to even learn how to delegate?
I would say Spark Pro Global
You're
first.
so cute. Listen, your
Um,
shameless plug. This is not sponsored. She did not get paid to say this,
I
right?
know, but it's the truth, and I'm really not just saying that. And a coach, I've had
Okay.
many coaches, and I had a coach once say to me, she says, Carrie, only one person can manage 8 people. I have 17 stylists. I have 4 front desk. I range from 7 to 10 shampoo help, and they're young. They're all
That's
like,
crazy.
college, high school ages. So that's a lot of people to manage.
Mhm.
So if you think about that, and yet I still have to answer those emails when I drink my coffee, right? I
Yes.
have to pull the numbers to have a meeting. So that's what was happening. I was like, okay, I'm going to do meetings and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you know what happens? Something else comes up that you got to do and handle. And then that got pushed away. And then before you know it, you're like, well, perfect example. What's the date today? April 23rd. Okay. I'm so behind on my one-on-ones. I'll
Mhm.
say it. I'm behind on my
That's okay.
one-on-ones. Okay. But at the same time, recently, and I'm working with Nikki Lee Consulting, and she's helping me build, the commission and benefit structure. And she's teaching me a whole new way of seeing things. So the fact that now I'm getting these things in place, right, that I need to, now I'm starting to like, oh, I can actually have one-on-ones tomorrow. Whoa, like
Yes.
literally, I can have one-on-ones tomorrow.
Yes. And Carrie, I'll tell you, I started having my assistant and Spark or not.
Yeah,
I have Spark when I started Spark. I had an
right.
assistant that I trained to work with a salon, but I started having her um, just engage on social media, answer my Google reviews, and start to manage my calendar. And then I said, hey, go in, because I know I do my one on ones monthly. The first week of next month, block out 30 minutes for each person and put it on my calendar and their calendar.
Mhm.
Wow, little things that I was like, now I have them on the calendar. Now I'm going to do it. And then before the month is over, I say, or at the very end of the month, I'm like, close out the month, pull all of the KPIs for each individual stylist, send it to me in a PDF and to them from my email. So when I sat down to do my one-on-ones, Carrie, I wasn't pulling the reports, sending the reports, printing the reports, or anything else. I was opening my laptop, they were opening their device, and we were going through their numbers together. And
That's yeah, the way to do
I
it.
was really hit and miss before I started doing that. So those are just like little things. That's actually great to hear. And your point that you say just delegating a little bit opens up bandwidth to do bigger picture things. So
Yeah.
anything that you have that you want to move the needle forward with, delegating anything that's a lower hanging task, a routine task, a repetitive task, something that might not be in your specific skill set, like yours would be leadership and coaching
Mhm.
and helping your team grow and
Yes.
building your business. That doesn't mean you need to be on the back end of it. You just need to be looking at the numbers and then
Mhm.
talking them through with your team versus pulling the reports, putting them into spreadsheets, etc. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that, Carrie. I think that's great. And the fact that you've been able to do this in such a short amount of time is incredible.
Thank you.
I think it's really fun to see what you're doing and to hear of your success, and especially that your open mindedness to working with a consultant, finding a mentor,
Yes.
finding a coach, finding ways to improve your processes. I think that that's such an example to anybody in our industry.
Mhm.
Before we wrap, do you have anything that you would say to your younger self, your 15-year-old shampoo girl self, or anybody who's barely starting in the industry that would be your biggest takeaway? Like, this is the thing you would suggest that they gather from what you've learned, or if you could pass that back on to your younger self, what would that be?
Uh, you know, I can remember, Heather, and you probably can remember this too, but I remember at 15, 16, something like that, when the salon, remember we used to get magazines? Do you remember the day of magazines?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Again, paper books, magazines, all the before we had.
Right? And there was that one magazine that would come in that was, I believe it was called Salon Today,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Okay.
And it still
And
exists in a digital form too.
it's a digital form, yes. And so in there, it would list remember the salon owners and like how many chairs they had and how much revenue they brought in. And I would sit there and read that and be like, that would be like such a dream. But I never in a million years would ever say to you, that I would be sitting here right now having a conversation with you about it.
Okay.
So when I got that call and they asked me, I'm not going to lie, because we've talked before, where my sister and I, I call her all the time, and I remember I called her and I'm like, oh my God, what do you think I should do? She's like, you're going to go for it. Just go for it, because most people don't. Just do it.
Yeah. Okay then.
And that's all I can say. You get an opportunity that comes knocking on your door, just go for it.
And it sounds like that opportunity came because you went for other opportunities to learn, to continue
Yep.
to grow, to go into a salon in the city when that stylist said you need to leave. She wasn't saying get out of here. She was saying
No.
go big, expand yourself.
Yep.
So this just says a lot about, the compound effect of taking each opportunity, adding to your skill set, taking growth as it comes, and then continuing to adapt and evolve. I think that's very inspiring, Carrie. Thanks for sharing a bit about your journey.
Oh, absolutely.
I think anybody who decides to own a salon is absolutely crazy, and that is the beautiful life of an artist. So thank you for sharing a bit of what you do and your passion with us, and for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Heather.